My name is Dr. Sarah Mitchell, 33 years old, and I'm a forensic toxicologist. Last Friday, I received a call that changed everything. My own grandmother was being slowly poisoned by the family that was supposed to protect her. But they didn't know they chose the wrong person to investigate. Because when you're an expert at detecting poisons, you also know exactly how to use them. If you're watching this right now and have ever had to choose between family and justice, drop a comment telling me where you're watching from, and subscribe to see how I turn my medical expertise into the perfect weapon against my own family. I grew up in a Victorian mansion in Denver's most expensive suburb, daughter of a pharmaceutical dynasty that controlled 3 of Colorado's largest pharmacy chains. My grandfather, Dr. James Mitchell, founded Mitchell Pharmaceuticals in 1965, building an empire from a single pharmacy in downtown Denver. Dad, Dr. Richard Mitchell, aggressively expanded the business. Under his leadership, the company grew from $10 million to $80 million, with over 300 employees and lucrative government contracts. Every family dinner inevitably turned into a celebration of his business genius. The Mitchell name became synonymous with pharmaceutical success in Denver business circles. And Dad never let anyone forget it, especially his children. There were 4 Mitchell children. My older brother, David, 38, was the golden heir, despite never showing real aptitude for medicine or pharmacy. He majored in business administration, partied through college, and still Dad handed him the executive vice president position the day after graduation. David spent more time playing golf at country clubs than in the office. Then there was me, Sarah, eternally stuck in the middle at 33. Unlike my siblings, I inherited my grandfather's passion for medicine. I taught myself programming at 14 and built my first pharmacological database at 17. I studied biochemistry at 16, graduated medical school at 22 summa cum laude, did my residency in forensic pathology, and specialized in toxicology at Johns Hopkins. Yet somehow Dad always looked right through me during family discussions as if I were invisible. My younger sister, Jessica, 29, completed our dysfunctional trio. She turned the Mitchell name into a wellness lifestyle brand, selling natural supplements to her hundreds of thousands of Instagram followers. She had zero interest in real medicine, but never missed an opportunity to post about being a medical dynasty heiress. Mom, Catherine, came from a traditional Boston medical family and approached family conflicts the way all high society wives did, by completely ignoring them and getting drunk on Xanax and wine. Richard, maybe you should listen to Sarah's idea, she occasionally suggested at dinner, only to back down when Dad shot her that look. Family gatherings always centered around business talk that excluded me. Dad and David dominated conversations with corporate jargon while I sat in silence, despite understanding pharmacology and the market better than both of them. If I tried to contribute, Dad would smile condescendingly. "That's sweet, Sarah, but leave the business discussions to people who understand the real world." The breaking point came when I was 25. Fresh out of medical school with honors, I developed a revolutionary protocol for detecting prescription drug poisonings. I spent months preparing a comprehensive proposal, market analysis, and technical specifications. Dad finally agreed to let me present at a board meeting. I still remember walking into that mahogany-paneled room, laptop and presentation materials in hand, heart pounding. 10 minutes into my presentation, Dad checked his watch, sighed loudly, and raised his hand to interrupt me. "I think we've seen enough," he said with a tight smile. "Sarah, sweetheart, this is all very creative, but completely impractical for a serious enterprise like ours. The humiliation burned through me as I packed up my materials while they moved on as if I'd never been there. That night, I made a decision that would change everything. I would leave Denver and the family business behind. I moved to Seattle with $8,000 in savings and nothing else. My parents assumed it was just a phase. "She'll come back when the money runs out," I heard Dad telling Mom during one of our increasingly rare calls. The early years were brutal. My tiny apartment in a questionable neighborhood cost almost my entire monthly budget. I survived on ramen and instant coffee, working 80-hour weeks as a junior medical examiner, then as a freelance forensic consultant. I created Mitchell Forensic Solutions using the pseudonym Dr. S.M. Carter. The initials stood for Sarah Mitchell, but nobody knew that. I wanted my success to be completely disconnected from the Mitchell name. I started small, developing custom toxicology protocols for police departments, reinvesting every profit. By year 3, I had 8 employees and a real laboratory in Belltown. The breakthrough came when I developed a proprietary detection platform that could identify over 2,000 toxic substances in minimal samples, ironically similar to what I had pitched to my father years earlier. Venture capital came calling, but I maintained majority control, determined to control my destiny. Over the next 6 years, I strategically acquired smaller labs. Mitchell Forensic Solutions grew to a $120 million valuation. Throughout it all, I maintained my pseudonym. In the forensic world, Dr. S.M. Carter was known as a brilliant, reclusive founder. My family remained completely unaware of my success. What they didn't know was that for the past year, I had been investigating Mitchell Pharmaceuticals. I studied their quarterly reports, identified their weaknesses, and positioned my company as the perfect buyer. 6 months ago, I had my CFO send an anonymous acquisition offer through third parties, which my father predictably rejected without proper consideration. Then I found something that changed everything. 2 weeks ago, while reviewing Mitchell Pharmaceuticals' government contracts, I discovered strange discrepancies. Medications being shipped to research facilities that didn't exist. Bills for clinical trials without proper documentation. But then I discovered something that destroyed everything I thought I knew about my family. I discreetly hacked into the company's internal system and found the real records. My family was diverting controlled medications, selling opioids on the black market, and using our medical reputation to cover up a massive criminal operation. They were killing people and using our family name to do it. That's when I realized the truth about why they never wanted me involved in the business. It wasn't because I was incompetent. It was because I was dangerous to them. A forensic doctor in the family was a risk when you're committing medical crimes. And that's when they made their biggest mistake. Last week, I received a call from Grandma Margaret's private nurse. "Dr. Sarah, I'm worried. Your grandmother has been different. Confused, weak, having dizzy spells." I immediately knew something was wrong. Grandma Margaret, 89 years old, had always been sharp as a razor. Co-founder alongside my grandfather, she still controlled 40% of the company's shares. And recently, she had started asking questions about the irregularities in the financial books. Something they never wanted me to see. I rushed to her house with my portable testing kit, a drop of blood, a hair sample, and confirmation of my worst fears. Digitalis. Small, regular doses, designed to simulate natural heart failure in an elderly woman. My own family was slowly poisoning the matriarch to silence her questions about their crimes. His hand froze halfway to his tie when I told him what I'd found. I called David first. "We need to talk. Today. At the office." "Sarah? What a surprise to hear from you. Are you visiting Denver? I didn't know you were in town." "Actually, I'm living here now temporarily. I have some urgent questions about the family business. Medical issues that require my expertise." The color drained from his face when I walked into the conference room, carrying my forensic kit. "What's all that equipment?" he asked, trying to sound casual but with a slightly trembling voice. "Tools of my trade, David. I'm a forensic toxicologist, remember? Expert in detecting poisons, identifying unnatural causes of death, analyzing evidence of medical crimes." I met his gaze directly. My voice was steel. "I found digitalis in Grandma's blood. Consistent and regular levels. Someone is systematically poisoning our grandmother." His voice came out as barely a whisper. "That's impossible. She's had heart problems for years. It's age." "David, I literally wrote the national protocol for detecting this type of poisoning. I published 3 academic papers on digitalis intoxication in the elderly. Don't insult me by feigning ignorance." I placed the evidence on the table methodically. Detailed toxicology reports, dosage pattern charts, timelines that corresponded exactly to weekly family visits, comparative analyses showing the progression of intoxication over 6 months. "Here's what's interesting about digitalis," I continued calmly, with the scientific precision I had perfected over years of court testimony. "It's derived from foxglove. Very easy to administer, can be mixed in food, drink, even absorbed through the skin. Few doctors would think to test for it in an 8-9-year-old woman with cardiac history." His hands were shaking now. "But you know what else I discovered during my forensic investigation of our family company?" I opened my laptop and turned the screen toward him. "Mitchell Pharmaceuticals is systematically diverting controlled medications. OxyContin, fentanyl, morphine, Adderall. Millions of dollars in controlled drugs simply lost in inventory records." David stood up abruptly, knocking over his chair. "You can't prove any of this. These are crazy accusations." "Actually, I can prove everything." I opened another folder. "I have bank transaction records showing payments from known criminal organizations. Lot numbers tracing diverted drugs to Mexican cartels. Detailed IP logs showing that falsified entries in the systems were made from your office computer during weekends when only you had building access." I paused to let the information fully penetrate. "And I have more evidence. Banking records showing offshore accounts in the Cayman Islands, encrypted email correspondence with illegal distributors. A complete money laundering operation using our family medical reputation as a respectable front." "You're bluffing," he said, but his voice had lost all conviction. "Want to bet your freedom on that, David? Because I have criminal lawyers on standby, ready to take this directly to the FBI and DEA. I called Dad next. My voice was cold and professional when he answered. "Richard Mitchell speaking." "Hi, Dad. It's Sarah. I'm at David's office right now. We need an emergency family meeting. All of us. Now." "Sarah? What the hell are you doing in Denver? And what's this about being at the company office? Nobody told me you were coming home." "Just get here, Dad, now. And bring Mom. We have a medical and legal crisis that requires immediate attention." "What kind of crisis?" "Sarah, you're scaring me." The kind of crisis that can destroy our family and send people to federal prison for decades. Come now. An hour later, the entire family was gathered in the conference room. Dad, Mom, David, and Jessica, who had rushed from her yoga studio as soon as David called in absolute panic. The tension in the air was palpable. "What's this about, Sarah?" Dad asked, automatically assuming his usual position of authority at the head of the table, but I could see the anxiety in his eyes. "It's about 3 things, Dad. Grandma Margaret being systematically poisoned, Mitchell Pharmaceuticals running a massive illegal drug distribution operation, and the fact that you've all been operating a criminal enterprise while I've been building a legitimate forensic consulting company worth $120 million. The silence that followed was absolute. I could hear the air conditioning humming, the antique clock ticking in the hallway. I placed the toxicology results on the table with scientific precision. Grandma is being poisoned with digitalis, administered systematically over 6 months to simulate progressive natural heart failure. Mom gasped, her hand flying to cover her mouth. "That's ridiculous, Sarah. Who would do such a horrible thing?" "Someone who needed her silenced before she discovered the millions in diverted medications," I replied coldly. "Someone who knew she was asking difficult questions about financial irregularities during quarterly board meetings." Jessica finally lowered her phone, which she had been holding out of habit. "This is insane, Sarah. You're talking about attempted murder." "Attempted homicide," I corrected, with legal precision. "For now." "Along with federal-scale drug trafficking, money laundering across multiple jurisdictions, medical fraud, and violation of dozens of DEA and FDA regulations." Dad stood up slowly, his face progressively turning red with anger mixed with growing fear. "These are extremely serious accusations, young lady. I hope to God you have ironclad proof for statements like these." I opened my main folder and spread meticulously organized documents across the table. IP logs showing unauthorized access to pharmaceutical systems during hours when only you had building keys. Detailed banking records from 7 different offshore accounts. Email correspondence with known illegal drug distributors. Irrefutable forensic evidence that Grandma is being systematically poisoned by someone with regular access to her food and medications. "You've been spying on your own family," David accused, his voice hoarse with panic. "This is corporate espionage." "I've been conducting a forensic investigation into a criminal organization that happens to be run by my family," I corrected with professional coldness. "Using completely legal methods I learned during my 8-year career as a forensic consultant for federal agencies." "What do you want, Sarah?" Dad asked finally, his usual arrogance replaced by calculated caution. "What's your endgame here?" "Justice. For Grandma who's being poisoned to silence her legitimate questions. For all the people whose lives were destroyed by the opioids you diverted. For the families destroyed by your greed." I paused, letting the words sink in. "But I'm also offering you a choice. Here's what's going to happen," I said, keeping my voice calm and professional. "Mitchell Pharmaceuticals is going to be sold to my company." The room exploded in protests. "That's blackmail," David shouted. "That's business," I replied. "Mitchell Forensic Solutions is offering $60 million for the company. More than it's worth in the current market, considering the imminent legal problems." "You can't be serious," Dad whispered. "Completely serious. And here are your terms." I placed the contract on the table. First, all medication diversion operations stop immediately. Second, you will cooperate fully with federal authorities to dismantle the distribution network. And if we refuse? Mom asked, her voice trembling. Then I take this evidence directly to the DEA, FBI, and state medical board. David and Dad go to federal prison for 20 to 30 years. The company will be seized as a criminal asset. You lose everything and still go to jail. Jessica was crying now. What about me? I didn't know anything about this. That depends, I answered honestly. Your wellness supplements contain active pharmaceutical ingredients diverted from the company. You're technically distributing unregulated medications. Her face went white. But, I continued, if you cooperate fully and use your social media platform to promote pharmaceutical safety education, I might overlook your unknowing participation. Dad sank into his chair. How did you know? About all of it? Because I'm a forensic toxicologist, Dad. It's literally my job to uncover medical crimes. Did you really think I wouldn't notice the patterns? The missing inventory, the fake research facilities, the correlation between Grandma's symptoms and your visit schedule, the offshore accounts. You left digital fingerprints everywhere. David stood up slowly. What about criminal charges? If we agree to the sale? Immunity deals for cooperation with federal authorities. Testimony against your distributors. Complete cessation of illegal activities. And Grandma? Gets immediate medical treatment to flush the digitalis from her system. Makes a full recovery. Never knows her own family tried to kill her. The room fell silent except for Jessica's quiet sobbing. How long do we have to decide? Dad asked finally. You don't. The contracts are already signed by the board. Mitchell Pharmaceuticals is now officially owned by Mitchell Forensic Solutions. Their faces showed complete shock. Wait, you mean? I bought the company 6 hours ago using emergency board powers. Grandma Margaret gave me her proxy vote this morning after I showed her the toxicology results. She knows? She knows someone was poisoning her. She doesn't know who, yet. That's 40% of the shares. You needed 51%. I smiled for the first time. Dr. S.M. Carter has been quietly buying Mitchell Pharmaceuticals stock for the past year. I own 23% personally. Combined with Grandma's 40%, that's 63%. You've been planning this for months. Years, actually. Ever since you dismissed me in that boardroom, I've been building something so successful that even you couldn't ignore it. Dad looked at me with something approaching respect for the first time in my life. Mitchell Forensic Solutions. That's been you all along. Dr. S.M. Carter. I'm actually quite famous in forensic circles. Just not under the Mitchell name. How much is your company worth? $120 million, which means I just bought our family business with my own success. 6 months later, I stood in the renovated headquarters of Mitchell Medical Solutions. The former pharmaceutical company had been transformed into a legitimate forensic consulting firm that used our family's medical reputation for actual good. The transition hadn't been easy, but it had been more satisfying than I ever imagined. We now contracted with law enforcement agencies across the country, helping solve medical crimes and prevent pharmaceutical fraud. Dad had surprised everyone by embracing his new role as an advisor on pharmaceutical regulations. Once the initial shock and legal proceedings had subsided, he found satisfaction in helping prevent the very crimes he had once committed. David's situation had been more complicated. After cooperating fully with federal investigators, he accepted a deal. 5 years of community service, complete restitution of stolen medications, and enrollment in a rehabilitation program for gambling addiction that had driven his initial criminal behavior. Jessica had actually flourished in her new role as our public education coordinator. Her social media following had been captivated by the dramatic transformation story, which she carefully presented as a journey from wellness influencing to pharmaceutical safety advocacy. Mom had perhaps changed the most. Freed from her role as enabler in a criminal family business, she had entered therapy, addressed her prescription drug dependency, and now worked with families affected by the opioid crisis. Grandma Margaret had made a complete recovery once the digitalis was cleared from her system. We told her she had been accidentally overdosed by a pharmacy error, sparing her the knowledge that her own family had tried to kill her. She now lived comfortably in a secure assisted living facility. Most importantly, our cooperation with federal authorities had led to the arrest of 47 people involved in the illegal distribution network. Tons of diverted pharmaceuticals were recovered, and countless lives were potentially saved. The experience taught me that expertise without ethics is dangerous, but expertise with purpose can save lives. My family had used medical knowledge to cause harm. I was determined to use it for healing. As I walked through our new laboratory, employees nodded respectfully. I was no longer Dr. S.M. Carter, the mysterious consultant, nor Sarah Mitchell, the dismissed daughter. I was simply Dr. Sarah Mitchell, CEO, who had transformed a criminal enterprise into a force for justice. The hardest lesson had been learning that family loyalty without accountability is meaningless. True love sometimes requires stopping those you care about from causing more harm. For anyone watching this who has discovered corruption in their own family business, who has felt the weight of choosing between loyalty and ethics, I hope my story offers both inspiration and guidance. Building your own success is powerful, but using that success to prevent harm is transformative. Sometimes the greatest act of love is refusing to enable destruction. Have you ever had to choose between family loyalty and professional integrity? Drop a comment below sharing your story. How did you navigate the complex intersection of family and ethics? Like, subscribe, and share if this resonated with you. Thank you for witnessing my journey from dismissed daughter to forensic CEO. And remember, expertise is a gift, but it's how you choose to use it that defines your legacy. Merit isn't negotiable. Justice isn't optional. And sometimes, saving your family means stopping them first.